Hello and welcome to the Unplug Live coaching call. We are so excited to have you back. As many of you have experienced, we had Brian Johnson on here last time. And for those of you who don't know Brian Johnson and are just tuning in for the first time, he wrote my favorite book of my entire life called Arete. And I actually had a little scare. I thought I lost this book. And as you can see, it doesn't matter what page I open, it is just has every note I've ever left. So I had to buy a second Arete book. And on top of all the ones that I've bought for everybody that I know. I just listened this morning to my conversation that we had the last time with Brian. So I'm going to keep it fresh. So for those of you who are tuning into this one and you fall in love with this conversation as I did last time, you will now have a place to go to be able to listen to it twice, because once is not enough with Brian. For those of you who don't know, he is my hero. He is my life coach. I actually took his life coaching program, the Arete life coaching program, which was phenomenal. And I enjoyed our conversation so much. And when I lost my book, I started reading it again, and I saw something in the very beginning. I was like, that would be such a great call. And I'm sure all of the people who come onto these community calls would love to hear about it. So before I introduce you, Brian, I'm just going to read one little thing from your book. Um, and that is what inspired this second call. Phil Stutz, for those of you who don't know him, he is Brian's coach, and there's also a television show about him. I think it's on Netflix, but I'm sure Brian will tell you that. He wrote on page 15, Phil Stutz, citing his favorite teacher, Rudolf Steiner, said that fear and laziness are the two biggest obstacles to achieving our heroic potential. So I'm raising both of my hands on that. So without further ado, I thought, why not have Brian come and teach us how to overcome fear and laziness so that we can live our heroic best lives. Brian Johnson, welcome back to the Unplug Live podcast.
You are amazing, and I just so grateful for you and for and those glasses. Check you out. Those you just like amazing. Soul Force is booming. Bless you. Thank you for your unbelievably kind and gracious introduction, and just thrilled to be here with you and to connect. And I literally just got off with Phil 30 minutes ago. So
Wow.
he's fresh on my mind, and I love that you pulled out that Rudolf Steiner passage. That's his primary guide and mentor. And Phil Stutz in the documentary with Jonah Hill called Stutz. And there's actually a TV show based on Stutz. Harrison Ford plays him. I don't know what it's called, Shrinks or something. But that's basically based on Stutz. I think that's public knowledge, but if not, there you go. Top secret. Let's go.
I didn't know that, and it's such an incredible show.
Yeah. Oh,
Shrinking?
really? Oh, okay,
Did you
cool.
say
Well, that's
Shrinking?
yeah. That's with Harrison Ford and who else?
Yes. Um, I forgot the other name of the Jason something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe that's supposed to be top secret. I don't know, but there you go.
Well, I was reading the questions. I know that you said to me that I could choose any of the questions. The questions from our community were so brilliant. And as I was reading them, I was like, me, also me. And I thought maybe I would just kind of shoot off some of the questions in the beginning that our clients have. And then you can kind of just address these issues. But I think the primary thing is you can talk about first. Brian has the most incredible app too, called the Heroic app, which hopefully he'll be walking us through a little bit because it helps you achieve your goals. It helps you live your best life. And I love that about the app. It's just brilliant. It goes really well with the book. But the one question I'm going to read first is this one, which is from Shirley. Why when I make promises to myself to do something, I don't do it? And I think that's a great starting point. And I'm just going to mute myself to let you speak.
Oh, I want us to have a back and forth here. I think I just love you and your dynamic energy, and I think we'll have fun going back and forth. So if you don't mute, that'd be great. And then we
Done.
can make it really conversational.
Sure.
And Yeah, I mean, the first and most important thing with that for me is you're not alone. So do I, so do you, so does everyone we admire. And this idea that Phil Stutz does everything he says he's going to do, and that all the heroes in my wall did everything they said they were going to do. It's that idea that something's inherently wrong with us, but everybody else hasn't figured out, that is one of the most pernicious obstacles to us enjoying the process of
Mhm.
mastering ourselves. Now, having said that, we need to be honest about what we say we're going to do that we don't do, and we need to work on that. And that's incredibly important. And Phil's number one thing is you got to know what your protocol is. You got to know who you are at your best, is how I put it. And we can talk about how we help elite performers get clarity on who they were at their best, and then what specifically they did, and then how we can architect our lives so we do those things consistently. That's the app in a nutshell. And Phil is relentless about that. He calls it structural discipline. You need to
Mm.
know who you are when you're at your best, and then you need to be that version of you when you feel your worst. He calls the person that can do that someone who has a lot of emotional stamina. And in one of our early chats, I always kind of tell this same story when I'm giving a talk. In one of our early chats, he said, wow. And he feels kind of funny. He'll just say things, you know what I mean, off the top of his head. Like, he just, wow, you've got a lot of emotional stamina. Maybe the most I've ever seen. Kind of thinking out loud, right? And I'm like, awesome. I love this guy. I have no idea what that is. Emotional stamina, but it sounds good. So the next coaching session, I asked him, hey, what's emotional stamina? And we may have talked about this in our last chat because I come to this
We
all the time.
didn't. We did it because I just listened to our chat, so I'm fresh.
Oh,
I know
perfect. Well, I was
about
getting
it.
self-conscious that maybe I did, but it's so important and so relevant to answer the question, um, to such that we can get better at doing the things we say we will do. But anyway, he said he had a lot of emotional stamina. I asked him, what's emotional stamina? Emotional stamina, Phil says, is our ability to handle life's inevitable pain, uncertainty, and hard work. Those are the three inevitables of life. Everyone wants to be exonerated from those three things: pain, uncertainty, and hard work. We want to get to a point where we no longer have any uncertainty in any of the difficult things in our life.
Mhm.
He says they're never going to go away. You just need to get better at handling them. And when you get better at handling them, you have more emotional stamina. I now call it anti-fragile confidence. But
Mm.
in that moment, I said, okay, follow on question, how do I get more of it? How do I get more emotional stamina? And this answer changed my life. His answer changed my life more than anything else. He said, this is what you need to remember.
This is me leaning in. I'm
No,
like,
I've got
wait,
goosebumps right now. I mean,
all
I've
right,
shared this story like
Delina,
a
are you
hundred.
leaning in right now?
No, seriously though. Yeah, but I have literally shared this story hundreds of times. Every single time
Okay.
I get goosebumps. He said, this is what you need to remember. The worse you feel, the more life is hitting you, the more committed you need to be to your protocol.
Mhm.
So the more pain, uncertainty, constant work you're feeling, and you feel overwhelmed, what do? Most people, the old me in my less enlightened moments, I go off the rails and I do all the stupid things I know I shouldn't be doing, right? But what if instead, when we get, and we all do, what if instead, when we get hit, we say, oh, this is one of those moments where I'm feeling really overwhelmed. What
Mhm.
if instead of doing all those things, I decide to do what I do when I'm at my best and I work my protocol? And then I can see the keynote slide. I'm going out to do a couple of keynotes and workshops for some very elite military organizations over the next 48 hours. And this will be the central theme of our work. The next slide is, if you want to get to a point where the worse you feel, the more committed you are to your protocol, you need to know your protocol. You need to know what you do when you're at your best. So then my next question is, do you know? And then this is, again, my life's work is to help people get clarity on that. And just to go there, the way you do that is, the way we start is, get out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, put do and then don't at the top of the page. And then think back to a time in your life where you were crushing it. You were super on, and you're really proud of how you showed up in your life. Think of that moment, then think of what you were doing and what you weren't doing, and write
Mhm.
them down. And then look at your current life and look at it and see, are you doing the things you were doing when you were on? Are you not doing the things that you weren't doing when you were on? And then we can get to work. And then there'll be some things that are missing, obviously, but that's exciting. You circle the number one thing you want to start doing, the number one thing you want to start doing, and then we simplify. And then to go back to your our community member's question, you don't try to change 100 things. You look at the thing that you think that if you started doing it would most change your life, and the thing that if you stopped doing it would most change your life, and then we get to work on that. And then there's a whole art and science, as you know, I talk about a lot in the book, for behavioral change. And I'm going to go there, then I'll pause. The final thing here is going back to the beginning. You got to have self-compassion, and you got to remember B.J. Fogg, the leading behavioral scientist at Stanford, who taught us that you think because you can't change your life that something's wrong with you. You think you have a character flaw. He says, when I say, well, maybe we've all got a lot of character flaws, but that's not really the issue. It's a design flaw. You haven't been taught how to change your life. There's a science to it, to install habits, to delete habits, but you were not taught that. I wasn't taught that. So let's quit shaming ourselves and then do the hard work to figure out how to install and delete habits. And now I've officially said 101 things, as is my usual way, but there you go. Where do you want to go with that?
I don't think you have. In fact, what I took from what you just said is we need to just simplify it. Okay. We need to come up with the one thing that we do when we're at our best, the one thing we shouldn't do when we're at our best, and then not think of it as a character flaw when we don't do it. But this is the big question. How do you look? We all know what we're supposed to do, right? We all know who we are when we're at our best. So there's this one little problem, hurdle. We're not actually doing it. And the design flaw is, how do you kind of put it into your schedule? How do you put it into your life so it becomes non-negotiable? And I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I would I would push on that a little bit and say, do we actually have the clarity we need to have on what our protocol is? And the way I make my point in my talks is you need a checklist. So whenever I'm flying around, I would never get on a plane if the pilot didn't have a checklist, right? Because planes crash, we don't have checklists. And so my suggestion here is I don't think we actually do know with the clarity we need to have. I want a checklist. I want to know what 3 things you do in what we call your big 3. In your energy, when you were most energized, what were you doing? 3 things. In your work, 3 things. What were you doing when you're at your best and you're most productive? And then in your love, your relationships, what were you doing? Energy, work, and love. What 3 things? And then again, maybe everybody here knows, I have to remind myself, what are my work things? Oh yeah, I recommit to a vow I made. I'm creative before I'm reactive. I don't allow emails or texts in until I've done the most important thing that day. It's extraordinary what I can get done if I give myself 30, 60, 90 minutes. I do that when I'm at my best. I don't when I'm not. I'll allow emails and texts to come in, and then I'll feel this like disorientation because I'm not doing the most important thing. I'm reacting. Then I get overwhelmed. Oh, cool. Let me step back, unplug, look at my life and say, I'm not doing that one thing. I feel so good when I do. Let me get back to doing that. And again, with clarity on the 3 things in your energy, work, and love, I playfully say, if you know those things and you do those things, try to have a really bad day. And then try to have you'll have ups and downs, but try to have a series of really bad days. And when life hits you and you're really feeling overwhelmed, do those things. And what instead of the other things. And what I found is all of a sudden, I literally get stronger when life hits me. Because when life hits me now, and I've been hit hard as I try to do, more and more significant things, I've had more and more significant challenges. But now when I face those, I literally double down on my meditation. I'll go from 15, 30, 60 minutes to 2 hours. And I'll prioritize that to get that connection. I'll make sure I'm in bed for 9 to 10 hours a night because now I'm getting hit. Turn off the electronics, get to bed. So then we use challenges to literally get stronger. And again, everything changes. We call that anti-fragile confidence, which is its own longer chat. But I playfully push back on, do we?
Yeah.
Does everybody here actually know those things? Then when we do, we can schedule it. We can talk about how to do that. And I'm happy to, of course. But in my experience, most people don't know, and they don't have the laser clarity on it. And if they do, they get clarity and then they forget about it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 days. So our app is every morning you remind yourself, of what you said was the most important things, and you commit in the morning in 90
Mhm.
seconds, your intention is clear, your attention follows, your behavior follows, and your life changes. Like that's the incessant, relentless, Phil calls it ceaseless immersion. You're constantly in that he would call it the battle with part X, that part of you that's telling you don't have what it takes. It's telling you today is the day to go drink the bottle of wine, you deserve it, or to go do whatever you do when you're feeling overwhelmed. um, but again, that clarity on the simple protocol and then the relentless execution of it
Mm.
is my entire life's work.
And it is so brilliant because it's true. I do know what, obviously, because I've been through the program and I've read your book, I do know who I am when I'm at my best, but I forget. And you're right, that is what happens. Someone emailed, if you could just quickly tell them again what emotional stamina is, because your headphones fell out when you said it.
Oh, cool. Emotional stamina is the phrase Phil uses to describe our ability to handle pain, uncertainty, and constant work, the three inevitables of life: pain, uncertainty, hard work.
Mhm.
When you experience those things, what do? If you have emotional stamina, you can tolerate that more. If you have
Mhm.
what I call anti-fragile confidence, you use those challenges to get stronger, almost like going to the gym and lifting weights. You don't go to the gym and lift styrofoam weights, you lift real weights. Yet when life hits you with a challenge, you complain. But that's your spiritual weightlifting class, or your gym to get stronger if you orient properly.
There are three things that are popping in my head from your book, which is ohms, and I'll let you talk about that. 1%, you're plus one, plus one. I love that. And also the fact that what is 1% of your life? Um, those are two things that are constantly playing and whoop,
That are playing what?
constantly playing in my head. Like you are
Oh,
now part of my inner voice.
oh
You
my
don't even
goodness.
know that, Brian. You're part of a
Bless
lot of
you.
people's inner voices right now.
Well,
But those three things, actually, I did meditations and credited them to you on the Unplug app, talking about those three things.
I'm honored to be part of your inner dialogue, and I know that you are part of so many people's inner dialogue with your app, and it's a sacred place to hang out. So I feel blessed to be able to hang out with you.
Oh,
So
you're the
follow,
meditation of the day today, by the way.
is that right?
Yeah, I meditated with you this morning, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call did too. And it was a beautiful meditation.
Oh my goodness, this is the one we did last time.
Uh-huh.
That was special. I appreciate that. You're amazing. As I celebrated you last time, your celebratory love, and just your authentic kindness and praise means a lot to me. Like it's something that I admire and strive to embody. So to see that in you is a beautiful thing. So bless you. Thank you again. Um, yeah. So then we play with ohms as a hero's mantra. So there's Om, obviously a sacred sound, which has so much meaning. We add M and S to the end of it. OMMS. We pronounce it ohms, and we playfully say that's the hero's mantra. It represents, yeah, OMMS. Obstacles make me stronger. So the intellectual framework here is healthy people approach life's challenges rather than avoid them. That's what the science says. And those of us in our healthiest moments, we approach challenges rather than try to avoid them by numbing ourselves. So we want to get good at approaching challenges. Phil calls it reversing your desire. You realize that your infinite potential exists outside of your comfort zone. By definition, when you leave your comfort zone, it feels uncomfortable, pain,
Mm.
uncertainty, and all that stuff. So when you feel uncomfortable, when you feel an obstacle arise in your life, you want to get in the habit of approaching it rather than avoiding it. Scientists encourage us to say, bring it on, literally. Phil
Mhm.
has the same thing. So you want to say, bring it on. And we like to say, obstacles make me stronger. And that's the essence of that mantra. I don't know how many times I've said that to myself. It's on one of those slides in my talk. Bring it
Mhm.
on. Obstacles make me stronger, and I'm excited. That's
Mhm.
another really compelling phrase that scientists have studied. And it changes your physiology such that you don't see life's challenges as a threat, you see them as challenges. And your entire underlying physiology changes when you move from threat to challenge. it's exciting to imagine what that does. So saying things like "bring it on" or "obstacles make me stronger" or "I'm excited" um, is a big part of what we do, and helps us lean into that discomfort that's required in order to activate that next level of our potential.
Can you also mention the +1 and 1%?
Yeah, so I'm all about tiny little gains. So all day, every day, I'm trying to get a little bit better. So we do this series of little wisdom bits or whatever you want to call them every single day that we call plus ones, heroic plus ones. So I'm constantly saying plus one, plus one, plus one. When you experience something in life, you have a choice to practice your philosophy or not. Every single time you do, and you close the gap, you live with Arete, you can get a little bit better. Now, when you aggregate and compound those tiny little incremental gains over an extended period of time, you get significantly better. James Clear does the math on it in Atomic Habits. It's the tiny little gains, but you need to give yourself a long enough period of time and not give up 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 days into your new lifestyle behavioral changes in order to experience that. So that's my relentless, practice, and that we share every day. Phil jokingly said today he's been reading them for 7 years now, or however long I've done them, and so he reads those plus ones that we share. That's the plus ones. The 1% is a certain number of minutes. I forget what it is, 14 minutes and something seconds of your day. How do you just carve out that much time to get a little bit better? Again, same thing. Put that into the cycle of aggregating and then compounding those gains, and over an extended enough period of time, you'll become an entirely different person.
Someone was saying that they felt like they have social anxiety, so that's their fear, and that's been getting in the way a lot. What would you say to someone who has social anxiety, who wants to be a hero, who wants to live with Arete? What's your best tip for them?
You know what immediately rises? Me too. So I used to be super anxious as a little kid and as a young man. Like my first grade picture is me with my sweatshirt just completely soaking because I'm soothing myself, you know what I mean, sucking on it. I grew up in a family, as I've discussed many times, with a father who was a good man but struggled with alcohol. His dad struggled with alcohol and ended his own life. My mom doesn't know the word excited. It's anxious. I'm anxious to see you. No, you're actually excited to see me, but whatever. So I playfully say I appear to have lost the genetic and environmental lottery on that one. And I was scared of everything as a kid. Everything. But
Mhm.
here's what's interesting for me. For me, the psychology has been important. And I can talk about some things that I've done, but it was the physiology. So our physiology is driving a lot more of our psychology than we think. Um, and again, there's a lot of different things that I've done, but somewhat surprisingly for me anyway, nutrition has been a big thing for me. When I changed my nutritional habits, and I don't get into the specifics, but when I do, but not dogmatically, etc. But for me, I removed grains and my anxiety went down. My inflammation went down. A lot of things changed when I changed that particular part of my diet. When I started training my breath, that took me to a level that it's hard to describe. And I literally have trained my breath I practice um, not Wim Hof, but something called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McYown,
Mm.
which I have a lot of respect for Wim Hof, but it's kind of the opposite of that. Rather than hyper stimulating ourselves, we do the opposite. We breathe less to breathe right. And it's a whole nother conversation I talk about in a class in the app called Breathing 101. But we work with elite sports teams. Military already does this stuff, but your breathing pattern, I have found personally to be the most important thing I've ever done. So I'm constantly training my breath in through my nose, down into you teach this, but down into your diaphragm. I exhale back out through my nose slightly longer than my inhale. And I have done that every single day for nearly a decade. It's hard to put into words how much calm confidence that has elicited in me. Um, So again, there's a lot more on the physiology, getting the right amount of sleep, training. I exercise. You couldn't pay me not to do what I do movement wise. So the eating, the moving, the sleeping, the breathing, then the focusing of our mind, training those things relentlessly has really helped me with my own. Now, frankly, I get excited. I feel nervous before I do talks, but not what I used to feel. So I always start there. Your physiology is driving a lot more of your psychology than you think. So I go there, making sure that you're, as my wife would say about our kids, well resourced. I feel a lot more anxiety in general,
Mhm.
social and otherwise, when I'm tired,
Mm.
which is why I prioritize all the things I just described, such that I feel vitalized. And when I feel tired and anxious, I get rest. I make sure that I get plugged back in, knowing that that's the source of a lot of the challenges I face. Um, I'll pause there and check in. We can talk
I
about some practical tips, but
I just love that. I love that you know what you're going to do and you know what makes you feel good and you do it even when you don't want to do it. And that's when you really do it. And that's something that I really admire because when I don't want to do it, I actually don't do it. And that is the big hurdle,
me too. Yeah, yeah. And again, I'm as Abraham Maslow, who's on my wall, says, there are no perfect human beings. And
right?
my job is, I'm not the first. You and I are not going to be the first. So in no situation, we can bring my wife in here and she'll attest to the fact that I am far from perfect, but I
Right.
do more consistently. The thing is, you don't need to be perfect. But if you get 2%, 5%, 10% better at this, where when life hits you, rather than go off the rails, you just get 10% better. And you tap the brakes a little bit and you do a little bit of the things you know are best for you, your entire life will change. And then if you get 10% better from there, and 10% better from there, and 10% better from there, all of a sudden, goosebumps, you have this confidence, this trust in yourself. And
Mhm.
Phil says that's the most creative act in the universe, is the speed with which you can turn around life's glitches. So when life hits you and you get uncentered, how fast can you get back? Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that he says, when force of circumstance upsets your equanimity, see how quickly you can regain your balance. He made it a game for himself. The great founder of Aikido, Morihei Usheba, I always mispronounce his name, but the founder of Aikido, one of his students said, Master, you never lose your center. You're amazing. And he said to them, I lose my center all the time, but I recover it so quickly that you don't notice. That's the trick. So I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. None of us will ever be perfect, but make it a game. When
Mm.
you get hit, how quickly can you get back? That's what's exciting. And then we don't need perfection as the standard, but we can have fun seeing how quickly we can recover. And if you go from a year to a month to a week to a day, and you realize, oh my God, this stuff just makes sense and it works, and I have goosebumps again, to an hour, to 30 minutes, to 15 minutes, to I yelled at my kids and my wife, but can I repair in 10 minutes rather than never, like my dad? Wow, cool. And I can use that to get better. And I don't need to be perfect, but I can get quicker in my rebalancing. Then again, life becomes a lot more joyful when we hold ourselves to high standards, but not perfection. Then it's again, it becomes more enjoyable, more joy filled, and we become a lot more effective in the process, right? We don't give up because we're shaming ourselves so much.
And I have to say that meditation has helped me so much with that. Like, for instance, yesterday, Julina, Julina and I were in the office and she started hearing this dripping noise. And she's like, what's that noise? I'm like, I have no idea. She walks out and it's raining in the hallway of the second floor of our building, and the meditation studio is underneath. And it starts pouring actually where all the electronics are. So we're like trying to cover it. We run down to the studio, and it's raining in the studio downstairs. And we just were calm. We grabbed a bunch of garbage bags. We tried to like save the day. We actually did kind of save the day, but we didn't lose it. We were able to go into go mode and stay kind, you
Yeah.
know? And I think when you practice your protocol, especially with meditation, when things come up, you you still maintain your compassion and you still are able to focus and follow through. So I have to say, meditation has definitely built that part of my brain and I
Oh,
feel it. And it's because I do it every day. Like you couldn't pay
100%.
me to not show up for that.
Absolutely. I mean, that ability to step in between stimulus and response. And for us, it's, um, we like to joke, the heroic gods, we like to say, have blessed us with an opportunity to practice our philosophy. Your flight's canceled, your flight's delayed. Perfect.
Mhm.
What did you meditate for? What have you been training for? The studio's getting rained on. Why are you on the cushion? It's not so you can be a levitating yogi or monk. Like you're meditating so you can show up more powerfully in the rest of your life. So then when you get blessed with the opportunity to practice your philosophy, let's show us what you got.
Mhm.
I mean, that's how, again, we make this whole thing a game. And you're demonstrating exactly what I was talking about is you didn't lose your center. Now what needed to get done? You had a clear, challenge that needed to be overcome. But that can be fun. Like that can literally go from being, oh my God, I can't believe it happened to at some level, it's, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still surprised that things don't go the way I want. Like at what point in our maturation does it
Mm.
become a little silly to not start enjoying the process of, again, practicing our philosophy in ways that you described, and then those moments become awesome. They truly become what could have spun us out of control now become the things that show us how far we've come and or how far we need to continue to work, often a little bit of both. But yeah, that's the pain, uncertainty, and the hard work. We need to quit acting surprised, I think, and then just jump in and do our best, right?
Right. I have so many questions to ask you. Carrie Pollock, I want to say thank you for saying that. She was there and she said she would have never known. That's so cool, right? Okay. Um, I have so many questions to ask you. I'm going to just ask a bunch of them and then you can answer them so it's easier. One is, I know you've been teaching all of these professional athletes. I've been seeing you, going into NFL teams and is it NBA like all these huge things. I want to know what are the best tips where they're like, that changed the game for me. I would love to kind of hear a little bit about that. We do need to create some space because we have so many questions too. And I want to do a little practice with you on overcoming fear and laziness.
Yep. I'll just go to one example. So the U.S. men's national soccer team, I gave a talk similar to what we're talking about now, and one of the slides was you got to make your prior best your new baseline. So that's kind of it's actually from Josh Waitzkin, that particular line. But when we look back at our lives and we have achieved a peak state, you have to wonder, well, why'd you let that go? Why'd you stop doing the things that helped you be at that level? So I had Greg Berhalter, the head coach of the team, who's since become a friend, came up to me and said, that was it. To make your prior best your new baseline. That's what the elite performers that we work with do. The amateur performer does something until they can get it right, they say. The peak performer, the elite performer, does it until they can't get it wrong. And there's a
Mm.
big difference between those two things. Most people get bored by the basic fundamentals of meditation, of eating a certain way, of moving your body consistently, getting a night of sleep that you need. The amateur gets bored by those things, to put it bluntly. The individual who's kind of in that mediocre state doesn't realize that the enlightenment, the greatness you want to experience in whatever way you define it, is through the most basic mundane fundamentals. It's the meditation. It's the things that most people take for granted that we aspire to train at the most consistent levels. But anyway, that's it. It's consistency. What these guys get and what they want to train, whether it's blessed to spend some time with the Chicago Bulls not too long ago. Consistency is their thing. It's relatively easy to have a great game. It's entirely different to show up for 72 games in a season. Consistency, consistency, consistency is what you hear these truly great individuals come back to again and again. And how do you train that? So that's what I get out of, and it's the same exact thing. The sports and the military, they have protocols and they work it consistently. Oops, I can't hear you.
I was trying to do a drop the mic,
Oh my
but then I
goodness,
actually
that
dropped
was
the mic.
great. You literally did it.
Whoops.
That was you
Okay,
unplugged
I
the mic.
literally dropped the mic. That was amazing. We need to turn that into a clip. Wow. Okay. Can we do a little exercise, a little 5-minute meditation-y type quickie visualization.
I'm gonna follow your lead the whole time. So it's your show. I'm just blessed to be here.
I'm standing up, by the way. I only do this for you because you stand up when you're on. So I'm like, I need to stand up. It's going to be interesting meditating standing up, but I'm excited.
Me too.
Okay.
Will you guide us?
No, you're going to guide us.
Oh my goodness. I was like so excited today to like be here with you live.
Good try. No, of course, like we would love for you to guide us to overcoming our fear and laziness, if that's possible.
Yeah. You're gonna give me an opportunity to practice my philosophy now. Perfect. How long would you like it to be? 5 minutes. Great. Well, we'll check out any tension that might be present. As we discussed last time, my wife is the meditation teacher, but I will have fun seeing if we can connect to the best, most heroic version of ourselves together. But I always like to start by finding that relaxed center. I too meditate sitting down in hero's posture, no less. Didn't know it was called that until I had been doing it for years. But if you're sitting or standing, release any tension that might be present. Lengthen and widen your spine, as the Alexander Technique practitioners would say. Imagine pulling a thread through your head, lengthening your spine, finding that place of dignity, which is John Kabat-Zinn's one-word description of the posture we want to find. We're poised, yet simultaneously calm, relaxed. Grounded, feeling the earth beneath us. For me, I like to say to myself, chest up, chin down, calm, confidence, energized, tranquility. As we bring our attention to our breath, imagine it's already slowed, but breathing in whichever manner you find most resonant for you. For me, it's in through my nose, gently, quietly, down into my belly, back out through my nose, exhaling slightly longer than my inhale. Which is the fastest way to flip our parasympathetic nervous system switch. Making sure I bring to mind all my favorite teachers. Thich Nhat Hanh tells us, don't forget the most important thing, smile. As we enjoy the stillness, the energized tranquility and calm confidence, let's mindfully connect and deliberately connect to the best, most heroic version of ourselves. The ancient Greek and Stoic philosophers tell us we have a guiding spirit they called our daimon. The inner soul, the wise, connected, best version of ourselves is always present. That version of us smiles at fear and laziness, connecting to that inner daimon. That best version of ourselves was the summum bonum, the greatest good of life in the ancient world. Feel the presence of that best version of you. As we did in our last meditation, we will invite two of our heroes to join us. Think of your two most inspiring human beings. Could be living, could be deceased. Think of two people who deeply inspire you. Invite the first to join us. See their presence, feel their warmth, feel what Gandhi would call their soul force, their moral charisma. Name the qualities they embody that you most admire. Let's invite our second hero to join us with the first still present. See your second hero in your mind next to your first. Smile at them. Think of the qualities you most admire in them. My encouragement to you is to imagine your best self as the integration of the qualities you most admire in your two favorite heroes. And when you feel fear and laziness, perhaps you can imagine your two favorite heroes, recognize their humanity and that they too felt fear and laziness, but somehow they were able to more consistently connect to that best version of themselves to become worthy of your admiration. It's one of my core practices and why I have heroes behind me on my wall, looking at me all day, every day, challenging me to show up as my best, most heroic self so I too can conquer fear, can conquer laziness, activate my heroic potential in service to something bigger than myself, which is always more fun to do with friends. So I appreciate the opportunity to do it with you today. And that is our spontaneous heroic meditation, taking all that energy, bringing it back into this present moment with another breath, another big smile. And that's what I got.
That was so beautiful. For those of you who are doing this, if you could let us know in the chat. I'm curious, who were your heroes? Brian, you were mine. And
Oh,
also Train with Joan. I don't know if you've ever seen her before. Her Instagram is Train with Joan. She's this woman who at 74, she was big and not healthy and not doing anything. And she started working out for the first time at 74. And now she is just fit. And it's the most amazing makeover I've ever seen in my life.
oh
So
my goodness.
those two were mine.
That's
Um,
amazing. What qualities within me, I'm honored, and within her do you most admire?
It's that you show up and your intention is to be your best self and you don't just show up, you do the thing that it takes. So I love that. And then for her, it's that I'm sure she felt fear and laziness and she had a total body transformation and health transformation and just at age 74, if she could do it, anybody could do it. So those two things I think for me were the big thing. These are really cool to see kind of what other people are saying. Thank you. That was wonderful. Nelson Mandela for composure, Barack Obama for charisma. Oh, hi, James. There's some amazing people on this call, by the way. Wow. Okay. So yes, please, Jesus and Max Lucado. I don't know who Max Lucado is, but I definitely want to check him out. Sally Kempton's a great meditation teacher. I love seeing all these, right? It's
It's so
amazing.
cool. So what we do, this is at the very end of my talk. I have them think about their two favorite heroes. I always ask the kind of most powerful person in the room, all right, well, who are your two favorite heroes? So you spontaneously kind of introduce that, right?
Hmm.
And then just to hear them share, and then we pair them up into pairs or triads. And it's such an intimate, beautiful way to get to know somebody, to share. I get goosebumps again. Like it's amazing what you learn about someone and what they learn about themselves and what they can share together. And then it's okay, let's go be the integration of those qualities in service to something bigger than ourselves. And the other important thing I want to highlight, um, all my heroes on the wall, they're beautifully stylized in these portraits, but the underlying picture on which their portraits are based, and Abraham Lincoln is actually the case study in this. If you
Mhm.
look at Lincoln, and you can't see him obviously because he's on my other wall, but if you search Abraham Lincoln right now and just look at his Wikipedia page, the picture, he is so worn down and he has faced so much in his life. And he's the opposite of today's culture. You know what I mean? Like he's not
Mhm.
Arab. You look at him and you're like, oh my God, that man wore it. The amount of fear that he felt, the amount of discipline it required from him to conquer, he wanted to kill himself at one point. To forge, he said at one point, I must die or be better. He wasn't the man he wanted to be, and he committed to being worthy of the admiration of his peers, and worthy of leading them. And he did the hard work. He conquered his fear, he conquered his laziness, but it was hard. So anyway, when I look at my heroes, and I got Viktor Frankl up there, I've got a bunch of people. I've got
Mhm.
Mr. Rogers that you can't see on the top. I have a thing that he wrote, and I'm actually going to grab it because it's so good.
While he's grabbing it, I'm reading these and I love hearing about your heroes. Jelena, we have to save these because I want to look up some of these people too.
So may I read something that I have from
Yes,
Rogers?
please.
So again, it's very, very unhealthy, and science is clear on this. If all we do is look at our heroes, whether whoever they may be, and we think they're perfect and we see how they are, we
Mhm.
will suffer. The science is unequivocal. And the problem with a lot of the social media today is that's all we see. All we see is someone in their airbrush, took them 20 different angles to get them, one shot selfie, right? And then we compare ourselves to their mastery, and we think we can never have. So it's really, really important that those of us who are blessed to be in the roles that we're in talk about our challenges and constantly affirm we're not perfect and we have to work on it all the time. When we see the process someone went through to get to their mastery, then we say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So
Mhm.
I have Mr. Rogers on my wall as an exemplar for me as a husband and father. But then anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed or whatever, I have you seen his documentary?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you remember the scene in there where he had a typed out thing where he had taken a little break to do some other things and he came back and he needed to write scripts. So anyway, this is Mr. Rogers in 1979. He's been doing Mr. Rogers for decades. He's like 50 something years old. And he says, am I kidding myself? Fear and laziness is the theme here. Am I kidding myself that I'm able to write a script again? Typed yellow lined paper. Am I really just whistling Dixie? I wonder. If I don't get down to it, I'll never really know. He says, why don't I trust myself? Really, that's what it's all about. That and not wanting to go through the agony of creation, all caps. After all these years, it's just as bad as ever. I wonder if every creative artist goes through the tortures of the damned trying to create. Eleanor Roosevelt, who's on my wall, said the exact same thing. The tortures of the damned. Oh, well, the hour cometh, and now is when I've got to do it. Get to it, Fred. Get to it. Um, but don't let anybody ever tell anybody else that it was easy. It wasn't. April 1979. Then he handwrites in 2 weeks later. I did it. It wasn't easy, but it was good. I helped these kids with this, whatever. Anyway, my point with this is our heroes struggled. They went through challenge after challenge after challenge, but they approached them. And that's
Mhm.
all we need to remember when we feel overwhelmed is so did they. Whether
Mhm.
again it's Martin Luther King who's up there or whoever we admire, it was their overcoming of their challenges that made them great, not the absence of them. We're
Mhm.
supposed to face dragons on a hero's journey, not lizards. It's supposed to be hard, is rule number one.
Mhm.
And that's my number one tip for overcoming fear and laziness is quit telling yourself you shouldn't experience it. Tell yourself, there it is. That's a sign I'm doing it right. I'm trying something that's hard. I'm out of my comfort zone. I feel fear. I fear laziness. Then do what needs to get done, whether you feel like it or not. Work your protocol. Structural, we talked about. There's also something called expansive discipline that Phil talks about. That's basically courage. You don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway. That's a discipline. That's a practice to say, bring it on. Obstacles make me stronger. Um, I'm excited, whatever it is that is your mantra. And then to do the practices. One thing I haven't mentioned is all of these people live for something bigger than themselves. The hero is a protector. That's what the word means etymologically. A hero is a protector. It's not a masculine, that's actually a feminine. A protector to me is, I think of my wife as a protector of our kids. So a hero is a protector. The hero's secret weapon is love. If you need motivation to stop doing the things you need to stop doing, think of the people who are counting on you. Think of the people who you love more than anything and make them proud and go do the hard work to forge that strength. But love is our secret weapon. And that's the source of what it means from my vantage point to be truly heroic. And again, my wife is 10 times more heroic than me. You'll never know the stuff that she does. The anonymous heroes that are on this call right now and that serve us, like that's the essence of what we're talking about here, not Instagram followers or whatever else we can kind of conjure up in terms of fame and hotness and all the other things.
Malika Chopra told me that she interviewed Eckhart Tolle, and she was saying, my dad's Deepak Chopra, and I feel like I'm a soccer mom sometimes, and I'm trying to do all these things, and he's like, you're a frequency holder, and we need more frequency holders on this planet, and it's a really powerful role, in my opinion, to be a frequency holder.
Yeah.
Okay, we have so much to do. Now we only have 8 minutes. Okay, so before we do that, friends, first of all, thank you for listening to this whole thing. I don't gain anything by sharing these things other than I share what I love. And when I tell you this book, you'll read it and then you're going to want to buy it for every single human being that you know. And it's like the secret playbook to becoming your best self. So please make this your summer reading. I also want to inspire you to go on the Heroic app. It is a brilliant app, and you're able to actually anchor into all these things that Brian's been talking about and see it. I mean, I would show you mine, but it's a little embarrassing. But you can kind of lock into all the things that help you reach the goals in those 3 buckets that he talked about in the beginning. And now that I've said that, where can people reach you before we go into questions? Yes, show the app.
So the app is called Heroic. That's my home screen. You can find the app in the App Store, Android and iOS. Just search Heroic. We're the training platform. But I didn't know if you wanted me to show anything.
Yes, I want you to show it. The app looks like this. It's this red icon. Okay.
Let's go. I like that red. You like that red?
I do. I love it.
Shoot. So everything we talked about today was protocol.
You can share it. Is he able to share it on the screen? Do you know how to share your?
Is it actually showing up there on like the split screen, or is that not showing?
It's not showing up. Do you want to share it?
I wonder what my Zoom is right now. Okay, I don't know why that isn't sharing.
I could share mine if that helps you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's do yours. I thought I was sharing. For some reason, it's not doing what it should do. So perfect.
Okay, you can walk me through mine.
Look at you. Let's go.
Let's see, is it coming up? Okay. Good afternoon, Susie.
Oh, amazing. Do you have your protocol in there?
So let me go into my practice. Healthy inside out, leader, visionary, present. And then I commit to my protocol. So then I go to healthy inside out. And these are the things that I'm sharing with you.
You are awesome.
I don't share my protocol with everyone.
You're amazing. And if you don't want to, obviously don't. But
no, I don't mind. These are my things.
So you've identified the things you do when you're at your best. And again, life doesn't need to be complicated. Know what you do when you're at your best and do them on a daily basis. You got that in your energy and your work and your love, which is Sigmund Freud said a good life comes down to 2 things, your work and your love. That's what it means to be a flourishing human being. I say yes, and if your energy isn't great because of poor lifestyle choices, you're not going to show up powerfully in your work or your love. So we have our big 3, energy, work, and love. This is your energy protocol, amazing. And then you've got your love protocol. But yeah, that's the basic idea, to take the theory and to put it into practice.
So if I hit healthy inside out, okay, and then I want to commit to meditating, weighing myself.
So technically you put your behaviors in the virtues section.
Oh, I screwed up. That's why I was like, I'm having a little, yeah.
So you and I can do a little one-on-one coaching session there. So that's what's going on there. We got a phone call too. Let's take that.
We're not going to take that. I don't think we're going to do.
We're just going to do. That's good. We're good. We'll come back to this. We'll get you all dialed in there. That is so fun. I'll
But
get
I love
you
this
all in.
app.
Yeah, you're awesome.
I love it too because I can look at your protocol
You can look at mine.
and the
Yeah,
community.
exactly.
Yeah, Susie, please also share how people can invest in Heroic. Sure. I'm an accredited investor and I have invested since the beginning. This is not someone who's coming to me. This is someone who's coming from our platform. So some people who listened to you last time became investors. That is something you can learn about on our which website?
I appreciate you even bringing that up. And yeah, one of my new dear friends is met through us. So thank you for doing what you've done. It's so
You also
cool.
have someone who wants to hire you for speaking.
Well,
Um,
that's unbelievable. I appreciate you as well.
all
So
right, guys, I'm Brian Johnson's agent now.
you are my
Call
chief
me.
publicist, my chief marketing officer, and everything combined. So then
Yeah.
wefunder.com/heroic
Mhm.
is where we have the crowdfunding we have open. And then if you are an accredited investor, there's a link there. If you want to invest a more significant amount, we can talk one-on-one about the details on that.
Yeah.
Public speaking, I appreciate you uh, thinking of what our team is. We'll figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple questions because there were some greens that I had to
And I have
ask.
more time, by the way, so I thought I had a hard stop. That got pushed, and I'll confirm that. So if you want to go a little longer, I can as well.
Thank you. Tips on developing our best daily routine.
Yeah, tips on developing our best daily routines would start with I want to know who you were at your best: energy, work, love. And the way we do it when we're doing workshops is we give you a stack of index cards and we have you write down on the front of one card you at your energetic best. Think back to a time in your life when you were just at your best energetic shape, right? And then below that event, write down the qualities you were embodying. Maybe you were disciplined, you were focused, you were consistent, whatever. Then turn it over and write down 3 things you did. And then do the same thing for work, your productivity, and do the same thing for your relationships. A moment in your life when you're at your best, the virtues you embodied, flip it over, the 3 things you were doing. That's where I always start, is you have already done great things. And I don't want to tell you, well, you got to do this and this and this. When I was with the Bulls, one of the coaches was like, oh, wow. When I was at my best, he's a big meditator. And he was doing a certain type of yoga 5 times a week. No, I like yoga, but I'm not doing yoga 5 times a week. But he doesn't want to do what I do every day of the week. There's no way. And then there are very few human beings like burpees. I love burpees. They're fantastic. So the reason why I like that as an exercise is I'm not telling you what to do. I'm encouraging you to think back to a time in your life when you were doing what you love to do and you were feeling great. We just need to get you to do that more consistently. That's my number one tip. Then you look at your day and you look at where in your day you can fit these things in. Scientists say you want to reduce the variability of your behavior, AKA you want to do it at the same time every day. So if you want to develop a meditation practice, don't do it sometimes right after you wake up, which is when I do it. Other times right after you do a little bit of work, other times at lunch, other times when you get home from work, because you'll never install it. You got to make your much harder to do that. You want to make it easy for your brain to do and hard not to do. Because once you do something enough times a certain way, it literally becomes harder to not do that thing. Other little micro pro tip, work out earlier in the day rather than later if you can, because you'll get a 12-hour mood boost, 8 to 10 hour mood boost. No reason to give that up. So I like to move a little bit in the morning and then I move a little bit more throughout the day, etc. Hopefully that's helpful as some starting points.
It is. So when do you do your workout, or is it more like you're doing the burpees every 60 to 90 minutes?
Yeah, why? So my day today started yesterday, is how I always say it. So
Mhm.
how I ended my day when I had my last meal, dictated how well I slept, and then when I had my last input of blue light, right? And when I went to bed is going to dictate how energized I feel when I wake up. So today started yesterday. So I went to bed at like 9 o'clock. The sun sets at 8:30. It was still bright out. You know, we're going to bed middle of the summer here in Austin, but 9 o'clock, kids are in bed. I'm in bed. I'm in bed for 9 hours and 15 minutes. I get 8 hours and 30 minutes of sleep. I wake up feeling great. So again, today started yesterday. Then I meditated this morning for about 30 minutes, did some reflection and some strategic thinking. Then I do a little opening series, simple 5 minutes of kind of whatever, sun salutation, some other things. And then I did my first set of burpees. And then I worked for 90 minutes. And I did burpees every 20 minutes, as you know. So I'm getting a little bit of energy going there. And then I got breakfast, hung out with the family, worked some more. And I worked out around like 11 o'clock. And it was like 20 minutes. I go out, we have a little trail on our property, and whatever. I do some pull-ups and some rowing, nothing significant, but I do it consistently. So that's how I bake it in. But again, my idiosyncratic things at work will be different than someone else's, but we need to take the time to get clarity on the checklist and then experiment, and then plus one, plus one, plus one, get a little bit better throughout the day, and then pay attention to the data, whether it's on our Oura Ring or our Fitbit. Like, what you do matters. My 11-year-old can make the connection between, if he eats this, his heart rate variability and resting heart rate will be affected versus if he eats that. So when he plays chess tournaments, he eats really well in the day or 2 or 3 before a tournament so he can show up and play well, because he knows his brain doesn't work as well if he doesn't do that. So we just want to make the connections. If I do this, then I feel that. And then just choose to give yourself. Did we talk about gifts versus chores last time?
No.
Most people view the things we're talking about as chores. It's a checklist of chores. It isn't for me. And science says that you need to move from a chore to a gift. Every single time I do something that I know is right for me, it's a gift I'm giving to my future self. Literally. And the people you have the most control over, you should have the most compassion for, and you should try to do the right thing for them, right? Whether it's kids or other people that you have complete influence over. The person you have the most control over and influence over is your future self. So treat them well by doing the things you know are right for yourself, and then it becomes a gift you're giving. It's not a pain. It's not a chore. That's an important distinction if we want to change our behaviors. It can't be a meh. Susie and Brian told me I have to. No one's telling you anything. What do you want to give to your future self? Whole nother chat on fMRIs and people who make a connection to their future self. Have more discipline. And you can measure, very briefly, you can measure people in an fMRI. Say to them, think of yourself. Everyone's self-center will light up. It's universal. Then you say, think of a stranger. A different part of your brain lights up. Then you say, think of your future self. For some people, their self-center lights up. For other people, the stranger lights up. More disciplined people have coherence between their future self and their current self. So you want to cultivate that relationship of, if I do this, then in 10 minutes, I'm going to feel that. In 10 hours, in 10 days. And make the connection between your choices and the gifts you're giving or the curses you're giving to your future self. It's a really compelling frame that, again, I teach this to our 7-year-old and our 11-year-old, where it's autonomous. They are making the decisions. They don't like being sick. They like feeling a certain way. And they know that if this, then that. They're not perfect, obviously, but it's been fun to create agency in that regard with them.
I think we might have to have a third conversation.
I'm up for it. These are so
I
fun.
mean,
The time
I don't
flies when you're having
know.
fun. You get me on a roll here. Let's go.
I could use another hour. Kareem's like, yes, please. Hayes like, thank you, Susie and Brian. This was wonderful. Heading out to another appointment because it's now 2:04. And I respect all of your time. So I just want to say, Brian, I'm inspired. I'm so inspired. And I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your time. For those of you, yes, more, please. We keep getting more, please. For those of you who are watching this because we sent it out, we're going to send it out to our whole audience. Please definitely take the time, follow Brian. Where should they follow you?
It's so funny.
Well, your website's really better than your Instagram.
Yeah, I mean,
What's the website address again?
It's heroic.us. Heroic.us, and then the app. And then, yeah, that's the only place I personally actively do social. I know our team has me up on all the other places, but yeah, heroic.us or the app. Those are the best places. Or when we connect, those are always my favorite times. So let's go there.
Wow, I loved our conversation today. And also check out our conversation that we had before, because you'll learn this plus 1 plus 1 hour. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate you. For those of you who wanted to get in touch with Brian, we will make sure that we connect you to his publicist. And Brian, thank you again so much for
Bless
everything
you,
you do
Susie.
for
Thank you so
Unplug.
much.
And
True.
you'll see yourself on the Unplug app.
I look forward. All right. Bless you.
Okay. Bye.